What's going on, world? It's Dana Harris, and I'm trying to make math cool again. Today we're going to be talking about trig functions and their graphs. We're going to keep it basic at first. We're just going to work with the sine and the cosine function on these first couple of lessons. But we're just going to identify different parts of the function so that we can know how to calculate the phase shift, the vertical shift, the amplitude, and the period. Let's go ahead and get into it. So if I have this first function, I have y equals 1/2 times the sine of, we're going to go 3x and plus pi over 4. Then we have to take and add 1 to that. So that's a whole lot of stuff. That's a whole lot going on right here. So we need to identify a few things first. There's a couple of different parts. We're going to say, let's get a different color marker here. Let's identify our different parts. So we have A, all right? We have B, we have C, and then we have D. Now A, B, C, and D are going to be key elements in order to help us find our phase shift. So we want to find first of all, let's vertical shift first. So vertical shift, horizontal shift, or we also call that phase shift. Alright, and then we're going to find the amplitude and period, of course. Alright, so amplitude and the period. Okay, now the easiest one to find is going to be the amplitude. Amplitude is always just going to be whatever A is. So our amplitude is simply, we're going to put in parentheses A, which in this case is just 1/2. Okay. Now remember, the amplitude talks about the distance from the center line of the graph to the maximum point and the minimum point. Also, the amplitude is going to be the absolute value of A. So if they put a negative on there, that represents something different. That's actually going to be a reflection about the x-axis. So we have our amplitude. So let's go next. The easy one is going to be the D. Okay, and D is going to be the vertical shift. All right, so in this case, D is going to be a vertical shift, and in this case, because it's +1, it's going to be up. So we're going to shift up 1 unit. All right, so this one we have +1 is going to shift up 1 unit. All right, now the next thing we want to talk about, let's go ahead and go to the Let's go to the period. Period is going to be 2 pi over B. Okay. Now, in this case, 2 pi is there, but then we have B, which is 3. Okay. So 2 pi over 3 is the period. So that means that it's going to take 2 pi over 3 units for this particular sine function to go through a full wavelength. So it goes from the center to the maximum, back to the center, down to the minimum, and back up to the center. You'll see in the graph, we're going to show the graph of it in another video. All right, so now we need the phase shift. All right, the phase shift is actually going to be C over B. Now notice we have, and actually that's going to be C over the absolute value of B. Okay, so C is pi over 4, and we're going to take that divided by 3 or tree. All right, so we're going to have pi over 4, and remember, if we divide by tree, we have to multiply that by 1/3. So this gives me pi over 12. So our phase shift is pi over 12. Now we need to have a direction. So in this case, the phase shift, it's plus pi over 4, but the phase shift is actually the opposite of the sine. So typically when we go in the positive direction, we go to the right. But whenever we're talking about phase shift, we need to go the opposite direction. So since this is plus, this is going to be to the left. So this graph is going to shift pi over 12 units to the left. Okay? So just to recap, we're going to go, the amplitude is 1/2. So as you can see, 1/2 is our amplitude. It's always absolute value. We have the vertical shift, which is going to be up 1 unit. We have the phase shift. This graph is going to shift to the left pi over 12 units. And then this graph has a period of 2 pi over 3 units. Young Guru's Math Tutoring, I still got the solution to your math problems.